Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip
Again.
again, and CJ's not eating his crab rangoon again. He got distracted.
Nope,
And
it's
we are
all gone.
actually now on the air. We apologize. A little technical difficulty. We thought we were on the air. We were having a great conversation, and we looked up and we said, "Wait a minute, oh, we're not on the air."
Yeah, I
But
noticed.
here we are.
I noticed it because YouTube wasn't on, and I'm like, wait a minute, YouTube's not on. And then I looked.
Well, we're here now, and let's.
Facebook wasn't on.
So it's Monday in the rib. We started talking about the crazies on the. First, we talked about the cover up. I guess we talked about that cover up. Haven't heard much again. We're going to have to dig deeper. Hopefully, this week we'll have more information on this and see what happens. And again, Coogan covered it up, but we started talking about the crazies are out again on their doing wheelies on their unregistered dirt bikes and distracting traffic. I saw 8 of them on Eastern Avenue between Bedford and County southbound. I saw 2 earlier northbound, and they must have went and rounded up their crews. And CJ now tells me they're on Facebook announcing they're coming, and everybody get out of the way. Because that's like a giant finger. Look at citizens of Fall River. Your mayor's not going to do a damn thing again for the 6th consecutive year. We're going to terrorize the streets of Fall River. And we had a police officer that was struck in one incident. We had some civilians that were accosted. And again, here we go again. Paul is going to do nothing again for 6 years. Yeah, good afternoon, y'all. We're in South Carolina. But again, nothing. But let me get the weekend flush a little bit, CJ. It was a really good flush, as always. But I always like your quotes. But when you get that quote from Chief Joseph, it makes my heart sick when I remember all the good words and the broken promises. Was he talking about Coogan, or was he talking about the... I'm only kidding. I'm being facetious. You could apply that to Coogan. My heart is sick when I remember all the promises he made in his first term that he has never, ever come close to ever upholding. So,
what's new?
And of course, you did a nice piece on Laura, and it was a good piece. You should all watch it, read it, and he closed with a quote too. If you wish to be a success in the world, promise everything, deliver nothing. Paul Coogan. No, I'm sorry, it was Napoleon Bonaparte. I can't take that quote away from Napoleon Bonaparte. That was Napoleon Bonaparte.
I know.
I guess Paul Coogan must have read Bonaparte's book. If you wish to be a success, promise everything and deliver nothing, because that's exactly. If you ever had a better flush for an opening and closing that was really, really germane to the topic that you covered, this is it. Because when you open with Chief Joseph saying that he weeps over the good words and broken promises. That's Paul Coogan's whole administration. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to follow the law. And then you close with promise everything and give them nothing by Bonaparte. I mean, that's probably the 2 best openings and closings ever, CJ. You have my compliments. You have my compliments on this one.
I definitely tried. You've gotten quiet.
Yeah, I'm reading that. Well, obviously, if a candidate didn't want to discuss his platform, you don't give him a vote. But that's what we're going to have let's make this clear right out of the beginning about this whole scenario here. As we always do, we are going to give every city council candidate the opportunity to be on our show. Have a show to present his or her platforms, talk about what they think they can do, what is right, what is wrong with Fall River, what has to be done to fix the things that are wrong in Fall River, because we know there's a lot of things wrong. And we're going to then they're going to have to be a qualified candidate. We're not going to do this until the papers are in. They're certified as candidates. So we'll offer every certified candidate the opportunity. And then if we have enough interest, we may have a online debate and bring them in because we can have, I believe, up to 12 people on this platform. And so we can have a debate with, regardless of how many councilors are out, we could have a debate and have more than one debate and draw online and live out of a hat to set up who's in the first debate, who's in the second debate, to get all the candidates to give them their day if they want to participate in a debate. And
we're sounding like BCC.
Huh?
We're sounding like BCC.
Yeah. Well, but we're going to, yeah. Well, we did it right at BCC, and look what we got for it. We got thrown out for being fair. It's like we allowed people with that. We weren't going to vote for to get up there and say their piece, and we had a neutral moderator. We had everybody got their time, and we always got high marks on our debates. But you can't. The
best one we ever had. The best one we ever had was at Morton with Bill Rapley as the moderator.
Yeah, he caused a lot of controversy by letting them go.
We got such crap. We got such crap for that, even from Fall River Government Television. They didn't want to do any more of our debates if that was going to be the situation. I think it was a great debate.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. You see most of these debates, that most of these candidates who call themselves candidates don't want to take. Go into a forum where you can take questions in a public forum, a Lincoln Douglas debate type. They don't want that. They want prearranged questions. That was the other thing we always used to get crap over. Remember that, CJ? We would not let anybody look at the questions.
How many times did we hear that?
That's right. Well, we want to see the questions. No. We're going to look at the questions. We're going to determine the questions, and we're going to then nobody gets the questions. But this is the whole problem. But we need people to run. We really truly do. We need a lot of people, and hopefully we're going to have some get together after all these candidates have been sorted out. They get their signatures. And listen, this is my own personal opinion. You don't have to agree. I don't like having to get a zillion signatures. There are some people that have to work, have other things in their life, and have a very difficult time getting out because they don't have the campaign finances and people with them. It gives an advantage to the politically connected, because all Paul's pals will sign all Paul's pals' nomination papers for any office they run to. They will make sure that those people get their papers signed. Other people really have to go and try to get signatures. I don't believe in this many signatures. I think that you should have one, your own. Pull your papers. If you are eligible, legally eligible to vote, and you want to participate and run for government office, I will sign Paul Coogan's papers. I wouldn't vote for him if he was the only person on the ballot. I'd write in Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or something, or leave it blank. I'll tell you right now, and he knows it. No way. I'm not going to vote for him. But I'd sign his papers because he has a right to run. I think he was a terrible mayor, and we say it all the time. But I would sign his papers because Because you sign somebody's nomination papers doesn't mean you support them. You support the freedom that we have in the United States to participate in the public process.
Well, I've got to say this because this is how I prove, once again, that Mike Mioza and the Charter Commission had no clue on what they were doing. Massachusetts General Laws, Title 8, Chapter 50, Section 6. Nominations of candidates for any office to be filled at a state election may be made by nomination papers stating the facts required by Section 8 and signed in the aggregate of not less than the following number of voters. For governor and lieutenant governor, attorney general, United States senator, and presidential electors, 10,000. For state secretary, state treasurer, and state auditor, 5,000. For representative in the Congress, 2,000. For state senator, 300. For state representative, 150. For counselor, district attorney, clerk of courts, register of probate, register of deeds, county commissioner, sheriff, and county treasurer, 1,000, except for clerk of courts, register of probate, and register of deeds, county commissioner, sheriff, and county treasurer in Barnstable, Berkshire, Franklin, and him, 500. This is what happens. Now, the names of any candidates for election to any office who is nominated otherwise than by a political party, generally referred to as an unenrolled candidate, shall not be printed on the ballot at a state election or on the ballot of any city or town election following a city or town primary, unless a certificate from the registrar of voters of the city or town wherein such persons are registered voters certifying that he is not enrolled as a member of any political party is filed with the state secretary or city or town clerk on or before the last day provided in Section 10 for filing nomination papers. Said registrar shall issue such certificate, blah, 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 blah. Section 6 and 10 shall not apply to primary candidates nominated under Sections 23 to 20 inclusive, except as expressly provided otherwise. Now, you'll notice that it takes 300 signatures. 300 to run for state senator. But you need 300 to run for mayor of Fall River. And why is that incorrect? Why is our charter wrong? Because under the law, it says that the number of signatures required shall not exceed 1% of the voter turnout for the last gubernatorial election, not to exceed 50 signatures. Not to exceed 50 signatures. I wonder where Mike Mioza came up with 150 and 300. You have any idea?
Well, I do, because they said it, and they said it during the hearings when we went down to protest that signature. Somebody should file a lawsuit, obviously, but they basically a few of the people on that panel at the time who were elected by the people, which Danny Robillard was the only real advocate of the people on that panel. They were all political hacks, but they actually said they wanted to make it more difficult for people to run.
And I'm going to quote Mike Mioza. If a mayoral candidate cannot get 300 signatures to run for office, he has no right to run. I'm glad that they appointed Mike Mioza to be all end all.
Well, he has no right to run if he can't get 300 signatures. Well, there may be some guy out there that might have difficulty getting 300 signatures, and once they get to know him, he might get elected by a landslide, especially over Paul Coogan. The reality is these people are looking for to make elections only for the rich and well-connected. Like I said, nobody that's in Paul Coogan's camp that's running for office is going to have problems getting their nomination papers signed. Paulie's going to make sure everybody that's going to nod their head for him is going to get a whole bunch of people. He'll make sure they can bring their papers, and they will have people circulating them for them. While some other person who doesn't have the resources and stuff and has to work 2 jobs has to go scratch it. They didn't hesitate. They were totally frank and honest about what they think. Screw the people, regular people of Fall River. We're going to make it as hard as possible for you to run. You don't have any money. You can't go out and stand around to get signatures. You might have too many things to do in your life. So this is what you get.
The apathy runs deep, Jeff. The apathy runs deep. And the problem is when people are setting up at Market Basket to collect signatures and they expect everyone to be from Fall River, they've been shopping over at Will Flanagan's store. Okay? Because that's Tiverton, Somerset, Swansea, Westport. A lot of other communities there. Little Compton. If you want to go to supermarkets to get signatures, go to Stop and Shop on Rodman Street. Go to Shaw's in the North End. The problem with Shaw's in the North End, you're going to get a lot of people from Asona and Freetown and Lakeville.
True.
Know your audience. Collect some signatures down at Shaw's on a Saturday. Collect some signatures over at Amaral's on a Saturday. Then you'll get people that are your audience.
But you know something, CJ? It's hard work, and that's why they don't want these people. They want to make it as difficult as possible.
It's never been easy.
Look, when we ran a recall, we stood at every market. We stood everywhere. There was, Sam's Bakery, you name it. We stood everywhere. And we had people at Shaw's, at Stop and Shop, at everywhere. And we also knocked on every door.
That's right.
And talked to people about getting involved. We talked about issues. When you go around, you want a campaign. This is what we keep telling you. You can't wait till a month and a half before the election and think you're going to win because you look good in a debate. You got to bring it to the people of Fall River, like Trump brought it to people in the inner cities and people where they said he could never get any votes, and he got votes to win the popular vote. Listen, I told the story before.
What you do is you go out there with a copy of your water bill, your tax bill, and you say to people, is this what you wanted? Be in their face. Is this what you wanted? This is what you voted for. It's not what I wanted. You can afford to pay $800 for water? Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And when they come get you for Diamond, don't forget, this is who you voted for. Remind them.
The guy that said we wouldn't be paying for Durfee is making you pay for Diamond and Durfee now. And Alphonse is saying he's going to eliminate some jobs. Good, Alphonse. When we have you on, and you will be invited to be on, you can tell the people exactly what your plan is, because that's what we like to hear here. We like to hear, what you think you can do and what you are going to do. And listen, I have never been an advocate for a city administrator from the get-go. I have never been, because if we're going to have a city administrator, we might as well get rid of the mayor and have a city manager.
That's what we're saying.
Because this city isn't big enough for us to have all these tiers of help for the mayor. The mayor doesn't need that help. Let me explain something to these uninitiated people who listen to their hyperbole about, Oh, I need a CFO. I need a city administrator. I need an assistant to the CFO, an assistant to the assistant CFO. No, you don't. You're going to pay the police chief $215,000 to run the police department. You're paying a fire chief 200 whatever. You're paying the superintendent of schools 200 grand to run their departments. You know how they did it in the old days when we had more people in Fall River than we have now? You know how they did it? Every department had to run their department. And at budget time, they all had to go in front of the council and show them where all their money was being spent and justify it. That's why they're a department head. This isn't Boston or New York or Chicago or LA, where you need deputy mayors and all kinds of CFOs because you got millions and millions of people. This is absolute bullshit. They've created tier after tier of high-paying jobs to do what they got elected to do. You're the mayor. You got a department head. Make the department heads run their departments. Look at the Newton budget. Every Newton budget, every department has to say what they planned to do last year, what they got accomplished, explain why anything that they didn't get accomplished, and what they're going to do this year, and explain every expenditure. And in Newton, a very rich city, you go in with your budget as a department head, you don't put something in your budget, then you go in 3 weeks later to try to ask for money like the water does every year. You know what they tell them in Newton? Beat it.
Beat it.
It should have been in your original budget. You were just here. You put in your budget for the year, that's all you get.
Not how it is in Fall River.
That's all you
get.
Get
the budget in, get it approved, go back for another allocation.
Yeah.
2 days later.
This is it. Fall
River money.
Fall River that has the least amount of money have the most amount of people trying to figure out how to spend that little bit of money. And what they do is keep taking money out of our pocket to pay all their salaries. They should get the really amazing idea of letting department heads run their departments like they used to. CJ, you remember when DPW, remember when Frank Manning used to go before the council at budget time?
Yep.
It was always a sideshow. Frank Manning, it was like a 3-ring circus.
I love
But that's what they did. Every department head had to go in front of the city council and justify everything they were spending.
Right.
That's what they do in Newton. That's what they do in cities. But now what happens? Nothing. It's sad. They waste our money. They continue to tax us and continue to create all these jobs. We need candidates who don't support this stuff. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. We need the police department to be stopping these bikes on the street, disrupting traffic. There's going to be a catastrophe. 6 years we've been putting up with this with Coogan.
And there's no problem with finding them now because they're broadcasting where they are.
Yeah.
They're taking ads out on Facebook.
Yeah, they're putting it on Facebook. We're coming down Plymouth Avenue. Everybody get out of our way. Yeah, get out of your way. You own the streets. Well, that's it. This is what you call anarchy. We've got punks on young punks on unregistered motorcycles doing wheelies in the middle of the street and disrupting traffic for little old ladies.
And going the wrong way.
And going sometime, but even if they're going the right way. Like I said, the other day I saw 8 of them on Eastern Avenue. They were in the other lane, but they were blocking the entire lane. 8 bikes doing wheelies between County and Bedford Street.
Nothing new.
But one of these days, like I said, it's going to get ugly because they're going to pull over the wrong people and they're going to end up having people out there with baseball bats swinging at these people, and somebody's going to get seriously injured, if not killed, because you can't do this to people. This is crazy. And what are they doing about it? What they've done, a couple of years they said, "Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to stop this." But they never really stopped it.
No.
They never really stopped it.
They never do. They never do. They don't care. They don't care. Hey, I got one for you. A relatively new tow truck company opened in Fall River past month or two. The owner of the tow truck got robbed. They stole his wallet, his logbooks, everything right out of his truck. On camera, because he's got cameras in his truck. So he parked his truck with the camera facing the scumbag, got out of his truck, and kicked his ass. And the guy gave him back everything. Money, credit cards, everything, all of it. Because he didn't want to get his ass kicked anymore. That's what you call justice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't arrest the tow truck driver.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm surprised they didn't arrest him.
Yeah, I'll tell you, but this is crazy. This is crazy. This city's a nut house now. No matter what goes on, and we never find out about it. We will not find out about a serious incident with these people because Paul doesn't care about the aggravation that you have to put up with.
Nope.
Because he doesn't care that even if they don't harass you, they are harassing you because how can you drive down Eastern Avenue or Plymouth Avenue with bikes blocking the entire street? And this, these cowards have strength in numbers. They have strength in numbers, so they'll have the mob mentality. We saw what happened. You remember what happened in New York years ago when somebody tried to get through a bunch of bikers and he hit one of the bikes and then they chased them down and attacked them and they were beating on his car with their helmets and everything else. And they had some serious injuries in that altercation. Yeah, that's this is like Dodge City. We need, what we need to do? We need to get Wyatt Earp, dig him up, get some of his DNA, clone him, and bring Wyatt Earp back to tame Dodge City over here. Or in this case, Coogan City.
I know.
But all we're hearing now is silence about everything. I'm really disturbed about that sexual harassment complaint and that's nothing, not a peep, even though we talked about it last week. Not a peep.
Nothing from the school committee. Nothing from local media outlets. Nothing.
Everything gets covered up. This is like the federal government covers up everything for their party. It's like, okay, this is it. And you look at the propaganda media, it just hasn't stopped. Last night I just finished dinner. I came back into the living room, and unfortunately, 60 Minutes had started, and I don't even watch that anymore. That's like the most blatant lying propaganda I've ever seen in my life. And they had one of the doctors. It wasn't Fauci. One of Fauci's right-hand guys from the NIH on there telling you how Trump trying to clean up all the wasted money that they spent on all these, like actually creating COVID and everything else. And they've proven, they've proven that the NIH lied, the World Health Organization lied, they lied about the statistics, they covered up everything, and they had one of those doctors there again lying to the people, telling them about how, they're going to hurt research that's going to save lives. I'll tell you what. The research that you and Fauci were doing cost millions of lives. Because the Wuhan lab, you funded the Wuhan lab to create COVID, you clowns.
And the COVID vaccine is currently being tied with colon cancer.
That's right.
There's an increased incidence of colon cancer for people who have had 4 or more doses of the COVID vaccine. And they keep telling us every 6 months to get another dose of the vaccine. They want to kill everybody.
That's right. And there's also been a very high incidence of heart problems with young people who took the COVID vaccine, who were virtually immune from COVID or any serious COVID. And they got the same lying bum on there, just like those CIA officials who lied about the Steele dossier. They bring them on as experts to lie to the public. And I don't know what fools still watch these networks, because it's not.
The executive producer of 60 Minutes resigned yesterday. Quote, "I can no longer present reliable, honest journalism with the actions and interference of CBS, Paramount, and Showtime. I therefore issue my resignation effective immediately."
And good for that reporter, because you can't. They look, and now the Herald News is using AI assisted reporting. Yep. And I want to remind everybody, remember what they exposed about AI when you went to AI and asked the question, who's Kamala Harris? It gave you a half an hour dissertation on, she was the Attorney General, she was the first one, she was like a combination of Mother Teresa, and the Apollo moonshot. She walked on the moon, she did everything. And when you asked about Donald Trump, the AI said, we have no information about him. So they're going to use AI assisted. AI assisted gives out the information that's its programmed to give out.
And that's the Herald News now. They use AI reporters. And it even says on the byline, XYZ's name, AI assisted reporting.
I won't even get these newspapers. I went on a Globe to try to pull that article about the MBTA. And on there before, I couldn't get on there because they won't let you on. Right. They'll give you a subscription for a year for $1.
Right.
That's how desperate they are. For $1, you can get a subscription to the Boston Globe, a trial subscription. It's like, I wouldn't give you $1. You right. Clowns, half the stuff you put in there has no factual basis. You look, they're still lying about COVID. Like you said, they're finding out people are getting colon cancer. Young people had heart attacks. People that should have never got the COVID vaccine. They're 20. They're in the gym all the time. If they got COVID, if they got flu, was worse than having COVID. The only people that was the target group were people with multiple comorbidities and were old. And even them, if they were in shape, they survived. They lied about everything. You notice that they said 75 years, all that information, you can't, they don't have to release it. That's because when they release it, they're all going to jail. They used us as guinea pigs. That was an experimental drug. That was an experimental drug. We were guinea pigs. We were like those beagles whose voice boxes they cut out while Fauci tortured them to death by giving him a brain-eating virus and watched them die screaming, but they couldn't scream because they had no voice boxes. That's why I'd like to see that guy that was on 60 Minutes and Fauci get exactly the same thing. They should take out their voice box and stick that brain-eating virus in their brain. But they rescued some of those beagles, thankfully. Fauci is a mass murderer. Because remember what Gandhi said. You judge a society by how it treats its weakest people and its animals. They have no consideration. He's a piece of shit. That's what Fauci is. And they're protecting him. They're protecting him. Right now, they're still protecting him. That's why they were saying, the Biden, pardon Fauci, Fauci should be in jail. They've proven there was gain of function research that we funded in a Wuhan lab. But who cares? AI, But you know why? That's so they can hire reporters for minimum wage and say, let the AI write it, we'll put your byline on it, because we can't sell any newspapers. Listen, the Herald News is so toxic now. I wouldn't use it for a birdcage liner because it might poison
the bird.
The bird. If they walk on it, the parakeet might die. Its feet might fall off or something. But that's. I mean, this is the media. It's like we suck at radio. The propaganda network. That's all we have. They're still trying to spin the MBTA. You don't see anything negative about. All they do is have Carol Fiola saying, "Oh, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. We're going to." Yeah, bull. Like I said, this is crazy. Look at the city.
In the flush.
Everybody's keeping everything under wraps because people are getting pissed off at Paul. I heard a rumor from a very reliable source that there are a few people who, well, you could see every time he runs, he gets less votes, really, if you look at percentage-wise. Even people that supported him now, very, very strongly supported him, are now fed up. I heard somebody that was a strong supporter of him saying, I'm sick and tired of him not doing anything about the homeless situation in Fall River because he's totally ignored affordable housing. And, something we've been saying that for a very, very long time.
That's right.
And, the bottom line, he's done nothing about anything that's consequential in the city of Fall River. That for the regular people. He's done plenty for the rich people, giving them more TIFs, everything. Yeah. And, it boggles my mind to see how, when people get just totally, we got to fire the people up. You got to get them out to vote. Because when they get disinterested, this is what happens. I mean, can you imagine? He's arguably the worst mayor we've ever had in the history of the city. He couldn't even become a school principal. And he's running a city. And he's running it into the ground. And he's a 3-term mayor already. How that bonehead could get more than 1 term is just, it's mind-boggling. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. Well, what other option does she have? Hubby became a millionaire with that stuff. That's what they wanted. And they're going to pretend that all these things were unforeseen. Well,
hey, reminder, the train wasn't supposed to roll out until the end of May.
Yeah.
Not the end of March. So obviously they weren't ready. They know they need 50 engineers. They know they need 100 conductors. They knew that back in March. They knew that back in February. Yet, you, Carol Fiola, you, Alan Sylvia, and you, Paul Coogan, and you, Mike Rodrigues, pushed to have that piece of crap train released early. And now we're paying for it. $51,000 a week in fines isn't going to hurt Keolis because you're paying more than that for the buses that are running back and forth and the free fares. That's the sad part about it.
Well, wait a minute, CJ. Isn't it good business policy like when you're going to open up, let's say, a restaurant, and I come to you and you say, yeah, I'm opening up a restaurant. It's going to seat 1,000 people. And I go, okay, what do you got so far? I got 1 cook, 2 waitresses, and one busboy. And the thing is going to be like Gillette, the size of Gillette Stadium. And I go, all right, CJ, I want you to open up 2 months early with no help. What's going to happen to that restaurant? I mean, this is what government does. They're brain damaged. They're brain damaged. No, listen. They were warned and warned and warned again. Like I said, Colin
and we were told we were negative.
Put a great presentation on, full of facts. We showed article after article. I still got a folder 1.5 feet thick with all the articles from the Boston Globe, videos from Channel 4 about what a train wreck, literally and figuratively, the MBTA is. And nobody paid attention. Nobody paid attention because the propaganda network in Fall River told you, don't believe them. Don't believe the people in Boston. Don't believe the facts. Don't believe the figures. Don't believe Colin. Don't believe Nelson. Don't believe the articles in the Boston Globe. What do they know about the tape?
I want to know who's
Boston.
dumber. I want to know who's
created
dumber.
for Boston.
I want to know who's dumber. The people of Fall River or the politicians who think the people of Fall River are dumb enough to believe the line of bull that they spread.
Well, the politicians have been proven right. They were dumb enough to believe it. That's
exactly.
It.
Because the people of Fall River are stupid.
Nah.
They're stupid. I have sat here.
No, I think they've just given up. They've fallen into that malaise, CJ.
I have sat here for 15 years listening to everybody and his brother saying that you and I are negative. We have nothing nice to say. We have nothing positive to say about Fall River. We have nothing positive about our school system. Nothing positive about our economy. Nothing. You're negative. We don't want to hear from you. Yet you listen and don't pay attention. Now, when we're right, which is 99.99% of the time, you don't say, we should have given you a little more credibility. We should have believed you. No. Instead, you say, you were nothing but negative. We may have been negative, but we were right.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in labels. Always said it. They can call me anything they want. Don't call me late for dinner. But the reality is, those are the vocal minority. Those are the people that Nietzsche, when he had his 3 classes of humans, said the herd mentality. They're the ones that are called the slave class. They kowtow to the politicians, and they push their narrative. I think the problem is very simple. The average people really need, unfortunately, they're not proactive. They are always reactive. Things have to go to the critical mass stage like it did in 95 before they do anything. We see all this has come over because of one thing, low voter turnout. How many people have told me, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to, what's the hell's the use of voting? Well, we proved it in the recall. It works. You got to get people to Roosevelt said, Rome went down because the voters stopped running their government and let the politicians run it. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is. They can call us negative all they want. We have given credit where credit is due. But the problem is there's so little credit to give to our government. We give credit to people all the time. How come we're the only people that say, why don't we honor our Medal of Honor winner more? We have a Medal of Honor winner, the Hudner building. How many people know what a Hudner building is? Not many. They made a movie about the guy. They made a movie about the guy. They made a movie about a Fall River pilot in the Korean War, a Medal of Honor winner. Why don't we hear about him? No, we hear about Lizzie Borden. We hear about the murder rate. We hear about the crime. Well, we talk about Hudner, but we can't talk about him anymore because we got to talk about what's wrong with Fall River. That doesn't make us negative. When you point out a fact that Fall River is misspending money and you prove it, it's not negative. It's a fact. And that's what Democrats always do. They call you a liar, you a Nazi, you're negative, and negative my ass, okay? You know what? Negative is in the eye of the beholder. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. When I got introduced once on WSAI many years ago when I could get on there, what's his name? Gus Sunnison introduced me, the best introduction ever, because he called it like it was. Sunnison had a good show. He said to his friends, he's tenacious, because that's what I am. I'm going to bite on your ass like my American bulldog and hang on until either I win or you win. But I'm not going away. If you're wrong, I'm going to fight. And he said to his friends, he's tenacious. But to his enemies, he's pugnacious. So that's a negative. Oh, you always want to fight. You always want to argue. Yeah. I'm going to fight and argue for what I want. Tell me something I agree with. Give me a fact that I can't disagree with, and I'm not going to argue with you. We argue on the show all the time about what we can prove is not right. You want to tell me that Coogan's doing something good about affordable housing? Show me the numbers. Prove us wrong. You want to tell me that he's not covering up shit? Show us the damn Malone report. Give us the report from DCN. What are you doing about this latest sexual harassment suit? What did you do about the head of security that we know was out for a year with full pay, and then he got to retire? This is not negative. This is concerned citizens saying, this is wrong. This is what's wrong with Fall River. This is like North Korea. You can call me anything you want. Just prove me wrong. Tell me that guy wasn't out. Tell me the allegations that we called allegations aren't true. Prove they're wrong. Did you ever hear a peep from that guy? He just shut his mouth, disappeared into the sunset, collected his pay for a year, and then retired with a nice fat pension on your tax dollar. I don't want to hear their bullshit, CJ. They can call me anything they want, because the problem is that they're like all the other Democrats. They can call Trump anything you want. He closed the border. They're sticking up for murderers and rapists now. That's how desperate they've gone. That's how far left they've gone now. They're going to argue to bring a guy who was told by 2 judges he's an MS-13 gang member, just to bring him back for due process. What? How much due process? For them to come back and deport him again? Oh, you can't deport him to his home country. Well, tough shit. These people are, look, I'm tired of listening to the psychiatrist Peterson said, you can't argue with delusional people because their brain is not operating logically. And what we're dealing with is delusionary people. The Democrats have got mind viruses, these lefties. I don't know if there's a moderate Democrat left in the Democratic Party. They would call John Kennedy a Nazi now.
Probably. Oh, and by the way, yeah, there used to be flags on our streets on the 4th of July. You know why? Lenny Kaplan, low price Lenny, made sure those flags were up. He made a buck off of it, but he made sure they were up.
I had a lot of bucks off it, but
that's right. But he made sure they were up.
Isn't it sad, though? We've got Fall River here, and we got a little tiny town like Bristol that's virtually world famous for its parade.
That's right.
And we can't even do something even close to showcase our city.
And last year, they had a big stink because they moved the concert off of the public grounds over to Roger Williams. Big deal. Put it back where it belonged, where the people wanted it. Oh, breaking news. Shots fired, 3rd Street, less than an hour ago.
Cover that up, CJ.
How's that?
I want to see the bullets.
That's right.
Do you have a bullet in your house?
If I don't, it doesn't count.
Oh, God. We got to look. We're going to, CJ and I and Citizens Alliance for Accountability in Government, we are going to have, once people get all our candidates in line, we're going to rent a spot like we did for the recall and invite everybody to come down, talk to these candidates, not in a formal setting, but an informal setting, and sign their papers and, or whatever. even before they close. But I think we're going to do that because we need to get the people. We need to get the people amped up. Look, you say it's hard to get signatures. We got thousands of signatures, CJ. Why?
In
Because
20 days. In 20 days.
Guys like Josh and John Pacheco and those other guys, and Angie, they went out there every single day. We didn't have a lot of people. We had maybe 10, 15 people who were out virtually every single night, every single day. We had some people that only could show up on weekends. But we didn't have a lot of people. But we moved the mountain. We did something that nobody else did. We won a recall with no money and with a bunch of people who had never been involved in politics, where all the other recalls that were financed by rich people with a lot of money and a lot of people failed because we got the people involved. Those people worked their ass off. They knocked on doors. They talked to people one-on-one. They did what Trump did in this last election. That's why we got the people out. We had a bigger turnout in our election on December 16th with only that on the ballot, no council race, no nothing, no race, just that one question. And we had a higher turnout than any election that Paul Coogan has run in. And that's a fact. So if a couple of negative people like us can pull together that, and the great thing about the recall was we had people, Democrats, Republicans, independents, people that didn't like the same baseball team, didn't give a shit about the other person.
We had people that didn't like each other.
They didn't like each other. That's right. And the thing is, but what they did was they believed in a cause. They believed that we had to change that mayor. We had to get him out. They believed in that. You got to transcend the petty bullshit. That's how you get things, people moving again. You got to transcend that. You know, it's not about party. It's not about, that. It's about doing what you do. This is a city. Republican, Democrat don't count. We're not making federal law and state law. We're making local law. And that means that you work for the people of Fall River. There's no party affiliation necessary. What's good for the people of Fall River is what you should be doing. Period. You're not closing the border. You're not setting state policy on immigration and illegals. You're here to do what's best for the citizens of Fall River. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's been an interesting show. Fred, we know you watched because you retracted your comment. I don't know why, but okay. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for your comments. I mean, they're still coming in. No matter what, we know you're there, but we want you to know you're there. We want people to know you're there. And we want people to know that no matter how apathetic you are, you're the cause and the cure of this city's problem. Oh, and by the way, speaking of affordable housing, tonight there is a meeting to enter the affordable housing lottery at the St. Louis de France School. 9 of those apartments are being made into condominiums. The rest are being made into affordable and workforce housing. So if you're interested, get down there and see. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold that line of bull known as politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great night.
My family out. I got to start with the job. I had to bring the lawnmower up, and I had to avoid all the rats.